I remember specifically the one girl said to me, do you not see what you are?
Wow.
And it's like, I still
Wow.
can't stop crying because I wish I could say that to thousands of women. She said,
Mhm.
do you not see what you are? And I was like, no, what do you mean? And she was like, you are so valuable.
Welcome to the Purple Stars podcast, the place where every life story and paw print has the power to touch your heart and inspire meaningful change. I'm Sarah Herzl, your host, a coach for health and mindset, a founder, an author, and above all, an animal lover. In this podcast, we bring together guests who share a deep love for our furry companions and offer unique perspectives on life and the life lessons they have learned from animals. If you're an animal lover who is eager to grow personally, this is precisely where you belong.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Purple Stars podcast. My name is Sarah. I am your host, and today's guest is a celebrated author, world traveler, and content creator known for her enchanting storytelling, magic, and authenticity. Please welcome Anna Kloots.
Hello.
Anna, I am really excited to have you on the podcast. I actually want to share. So I started following you last year, and usually my team sends out emails to guests if we want to have them on the show. But I was like, I really want this woman on the show. So I sent you actually multiple emails and also message on Instagram. I think in total 3 messages. So I want to share this because perseverance and persistence definitely does pay off. Because I was when I saw you again, I was like, I'm going to give it another shot. And usually I'm not so resending messages, but I just love so much what you put out on Instagram that I thought you were just so perfect for our show. So when you replied that you're coming on, and we also found a date that wasn't too far away, I was very happy.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. It definitely does pay off, especially because I think what I probably responded to you was you probably were like, here's some dates for the future. And they were months in advance, right?
Yeah.
And I probably responded hi, I usually don't know what I'm doing from now. So I can't commit to these dates because chances are anytime I commit to something
far in advance,
I have to cancel that thing. Because I have to let you down. So let me get back to you when it is in fact, January of next year, because it's currently, September, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it was awesome because right now we're in the same continent. It was super easy to schedule. So I'm happy. Yeah. Anna, for those who don't know you yet, can you share a little bit about the journey and what has led to you becoming the amazing person you are today?
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you. Sure. I grew up in Ohio, the baby of a very big family of 5 kids. I moved to New York City when I was 18 to study fashion. But then I did a semester abroad in Paris because I started taking French when I was a little girl, and I just fell in love with France and French and always dreamed of living in Paris. So I did my semester abroad. And that was when it really clicked of this is what I love. I thought I loved fashion, and I thought that's what I wanted to do with my life. And then during my semester, I was like, no, this is what I love. I love being abroad. I love adventures. And that's when I really started writing and traveling and, exploring. And longest story short, after that, I took a job in London, not doing fashion at all, doing interior design sort of, but took the job essentially because it was a chance to live in another country and be close to France and have another adventure. And I continued traveling and continued writing. And then I ended up moving back to New York, only because London essentially kicked me out. My visa was otherwise I would have stayed there forever. I went back to New York. I was in my job in New York and really just kind of unhappy, and ended up getting married and going on sort of a path of kind of the wrong one, sort of losing myself slowly to a relationship that wasn't right for me, and kind of slowly over the years dropping left and right all the things that were really important to me and the things that made me who I am and were, like my core things that made me light up and made me feel happy and excited and special. I kind of let those either fare to the wayside because I had to drop them, or just because they didn't work anymore with my life or would work with this person. And after about 10 years with that, with my ex-husband, I went through a divorce, had to find a new job because I ended up working with him. So I had to find a new job, new home, new life, kind of new everything, and didn't really know what I was going to do because it was a very, I was 30 at this point, and, felt pretty lost, and ultimately just sort of decided that I had to figure it out, that sitting and wallowing in this fear and pain and, sort of like, how did I get here? Woe is me, wasn't going to get me anywhere. And I had to sort of look back on all the things that I had achieved on my own, and all the strength that I had, and, all the past, like, all those past joys, like all those past things that I had let go. I kind of had to go, like, trace those old steps and pick those things up and use those as like blocks to build a new road back to who I used to be, but also take all those things that I had learned about who I was to kind of build this new path of what this new life was going to be. And I decided I was moving to Paris because that was the place I was always happy, and that was always my dream. And I really kind of just set out on this idea of, if I have to start my life over in so many ways, then I'm going to try to create the life I always wanted before I set off on this other path with this person and let, this person kind of shape what my life was going to look like. And I kind of just went for it. and I say in so many ways it was because I kind of had nothing to lose. The beautiful thing about losing everything is it leaves you with nothing to lose. And you just kind of become sort of fearless, because you're like, how much worse could it really get? Like, I'm already humiliated. I already have no job. I already have nowhere to live. And, how much worse could it get? So I might as well move to France and see if that dream, gets me anywhere. But it worked out for the best. Obviously, I moved here. I started writing the book that I always knew was in me. I mean, it's amazing what happens when you just decide to believe in yourself and really believe in yourself. Not just say it, but like really, really believe it, and put all the time and energy and faith that you were putting in someone else in yourself instead. And so that's what I did. And it's been 5 years since I did that, which is crazy. But yeah, I've been here 5 years.
Amen. It's actually like, I have goosebumps. It's such an amazing story. And one of the many reasons why I wanted you on the podcast, first of all, because you have a very cute dog.
Thank you.
But also because there are so many people out there that they are living lives on someone else's terms. Yeah. And they are too scared for different reasons to take that leap of faith to change their life, whether it's like, one area in their life or multiple areas or like a complete change. And I want people to showcase you are the proof it is possible to literally start over. And, because you are now in a relationship, you have a cute dog, you live in the place of your dreams, you wrote the book that you said you always have in you. So I want people to really be like, if Anna can do it, someone else can do it too. And it just, it takes faith and courage, and obviously also a lot of self-belief, as you said.
You can so do it. And it's why I wrote my book for so many reasons, but it's such an important part of why I wrote my book, and why I really hope that people who do, who are in my community, who do follow me, and maybe who just started following me and just come in and see see the fun, see, oh my God, she lives in Paris and what a beautiful apartment and what a cute dog. And wow, her boyfriend looks so great. I hope they know, I hope they take the time to see that, before this, it was a mess. And I was in a place where I didn't believe that I would be able to fix it. Like, I was in this relationship, living my life by someone else's terms completely. And I was miserable. And I was trying to convince myself that I wasn't, because I didn't feel like I had a right to be miserable. Because in my mind, my life wasn't that bad, right? Like, it wasn't that bad. It could be worse. I didn't have a right to complain. Every time I talk about gaslighting myself in my book, every time I felt like I wanted more, I told myself I was selfish. Every time I complained, I was constantly telling myself and validating my own feelings. And so I'm more and more every day making myself miserable and telling myself I don't have a right to feel this way, and telling myself I should just be okay with this life and okay with being silent and okay with just, living the rest of my life. I'm 29 years old at this point. So I'm telling myself, you should be okay with living, hopefully, the next 70 years of your life, silently going along with it. And never really having what you want, never really having a say, never really going for your own dreams, never really being able to do what you want to do, never being able to put a book on a shelf that's yours, never being able to get the dog that you want, never being able to move where you want, never having the career that you wanted, none of it. And I was really convinced that even if I could get the courage to break this off, or if it did end or anything, that I wouldn't be strong enough or smart enough or have enough resources or whatever to really change my life. And so that fear kept me, a mix of like the fear and the guilt and the self-gaslighting just kept me in this place of like, I just have to be okay with this. And I have to just live the rest of my life in this situation. And I have to just make the best of it and just try to be happy like this. And so, that's why I say in my book, and I say all the time, like, thank God what happened to me happened to me. Like, thank God something came and forced me to have to figure it out. Because hopefully at some point I would have reached a breaking point. I would have been like, I can't do this anymore. And I would have found the courage in myself to break it and go fix it. But I don't know, maybe not. And maybe some people will spend their entire lives in the place that I might have spent my entire life in, of that mix of gaslighting and guilt and fear, and just saying, I guess this is how I have to spend my whole life because I don't think I'll be able to change it.
What happened that you ended the relationship?
I didn't.
You didn't.
My ex-husband. We were trying to work on our marriage. We almost ended our marriage about a year and a half before we officially did. I write about this in the book. It was like a very traumatic moment. And then we started going to therapy after that. So we were going to therapy, really working on things for about a year and a half. And I spent that year and a half really kind of like, it was a good mix of like a wake-up call for me of like, I put a lot of blame on myself the first time that we almost split up, of like, I'm doing everything wrong.
Your dog is agreeing. Yeah, Mama, good what you're saying.
It was a lot of me being like, I'm not enough. I'm a bad wife. I'm not supportive enough. I was putting so much blame on myself. And I was like, I got to fix this and this and this and this. and then in the midst of, a year and a half of therapy, both together and then me on my own, it was kind of a good uh wake up to me of like, maybe this isn't all me.
Mm-hmm.
I very much believe in a relationship, nothing is ever 100%
Yeah.
you,
Always
right?
two people to dance
There's
tango.
two people contributing to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is black and white. There are always shades of gray. Everyone is different sides of a story. Everyone has their own reality. So I was learning just a lot about me, and realizing, what my own needs were, what his needs were. Maybe our needs just were never going to be right for each other. But I was also kind of realizing, like, maybe there is a way that, if we both just kind of bend a little bit, we can make it work. But I was basically realizing, like, I need things and I'm going to need him to bend, or else this isn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also kind of realizing I'm not sure he wants to bend.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be a real problem, because I can't be the only bender.
Yeah.
Um, and in the midst of that, we weren't always the best communicators with each other, which was another thing we were
Oh
trying to
yeah,
work
huge.
on. So I thought we were kind of getting somewhere, and I was, trying to figure out, is this going to work? Is this going to not go work? And in the midst of that, one day out of nowhere, he just said to me, I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually in the middle of us trying to redecorate the apartment, which was something I had begged for years, because I was living in this
Wow.
place that, I didn't have a book on a shelf. It was his studio that
Mm-hmm.
like, it was our home, but there wasn't a trace of me in it. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't live like this. We have to redecorate. So again, I'm begging. I'm like, I need you to bend somewhere. I need some
Mm-hmm.
presence in this life, or I
Yeah.
can't live like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally like the day before the walls were going to be repainted. Like literally, the furniture was like in the middle of the room, plastic. The painters were coming in the morning, and like he just knew. He was like, I can't do it. I can't
Mm-hmm.
change the walls. But like, what he really meant was like, I
I
can't
can
change
change
me,
myself.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so funny. I hold no animosity at all. And we don't talk. We're not friends, but like, I don't wish a speck of bad. I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I really do, in the weirdest way, have so much respect for someone who can just say, this is me, this is what I'm capable of. And I understand not fully realizing that when you enter something, thinking you were capable of something, thinking you wanted this, and then as you go on and as people change, because you change from, I got married at 25. I met
Mm-hmm.
my ex-husband when I was 19. I
So
was a
an
very different
entire
person
decade,
at
yeah.
29. At 30, I wanted things that I didn't even know I wanted at 19,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm a different person. Um, he's a different person 10 years later. I have enormous respect, in a way, for someone who is able to say, I'm actually not able to change. And
Mm-hmm.
while that's a really, you know, unattractive thing to say to someone,
Mm-hmm.
it's truth. And I'm not going to pretend to you that I'm going to change and
Mm-hmm.
essentially waste more of your time and waste my time too. And it was hard, but at the same time, it made it very easy to just be like, okay, like,
Mm-hmm.
this has gone as far as it could go. And and it was still hard, of course, because you're saying goodbye to so many things and a future you thought you would have, and of course it still hurts. And there's it's awful
Mm-hmm.
anytime any relationship breaks up, whether it's a relationship you've had for only a couple months, or it's
Mm-hmm.
a marriage,
Yeah.
or it's always hard. But I think there's enormous amount of respect you have for anyone who's able to completely know who they are and what they're capable of, and
And
whether
own it.
and own it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for sharing this. Anna, I'm wondering, because you say you went to therapy and everything, what were the root causes and your limiting beliefs you had throughout your 20s that made you bend backwards for someone that wasn't willing to bend an inch?
I don't know. I've wondered if it's because I've tried to understand this
Mm-hmm.
before. And part of me has wondered if it's because I'm the baby, right? I'm the
Mm-hmm.
baby of five. So when you grow up as the baby, and I'm the baby by 7 years. So I have my four older siblings. And you're always like, you're getting the last, you're always the one who's compromising, right? In
Mm-hmm.
the household. Like at some point they're all like older adults and I'm like 7 or 8 years old, right? So at like when you're younger, you're like cute and you're adored and everybody's
Mm-hmm.
like fawning over you. But then at some point you're like the annoying 8-year-old. It's like you don't count for anything. Your opinion doesn't
Mm-hmm.
count for anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can call a captain's chair in the van on the way to the band show, and it's like, haha, get in the back. Your
Mm-hmm.
voice doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And, your parents don't stick up for you. They don't even know what's going on. There's five of
Yeah.
you. So, like, part of me has wondered if it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
that kind of mentality of like from the time I was little, I was just kind of used to like always being the one that was like the younger one that was like, okay,
Overruled.
I don't have a say. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it was always in this context of like love. And that's why it was okay because like,
So it was familiar.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm bending and I'm like, okay, fine. It's not my way, but it's not serious, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
fine, I don't get the captain's chair, but who
Yeah.
cares? I'm still with the people I love. I'm having a good time. Like the result of me bending was never harmful to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe like on a deep, deep, deep level, it might have come from that, this like willingness to just
Mm-hmm.
bend and do things for other people. Um, I think in another way too, I also am like a natural kind of caretaker. Like I like doing things for other people. It is very natural for me to like stop what I'm doing, stop my day. If I know that, someone I love needs something or wants something,
Mm-hmm.
I'll totally stop my productivity, stop my workday and be like, oh, my mom needs help with this, or my boyfriend needs that. I should bake cookies
Mm-hmm.
for my best friend. It's I'm almost like looking for reasons to
Mm-hmm.
stop my productivity and help people because I really enjoy like at a core
Yeah.
level it like feeds it. I don't know if it's that it makes me feel needed or it makes me feel happy, but whatever reason that is, it's always been something that I do. Like I like taking care of other people, so it could be a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know, like a combo of things, but
It's
it never bothered me because it
mm-hmm.
never threatened my own growth, development. Because I think that when you bend, it's not always a bad thing to bend, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
bend and you give to the right people, to the
Mm-hmm.
right situations, it doesn't harm you, right? Because you get love and growth and the same, like it's reciprocated.
Mm-hmm.
You get things out of it. When you bend and give to the wrong things, or I don't want to say the wrong people as in like the bad people. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that. I just mean situations that aren't ultimately going to advance you or grow you or
Mm-hmm.
help you. It just ultimately kind of hurts you, right? It just like
Yeah.
stinks you. And I think I had never given in that kind of context before that particular relationship. And that's what was hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I also talk about in my book, and in some ways, I was really growing in that relationship because we were traveling nonstop. So,
You were in 80 countries, right?
yeah, we were
Mm-hmm.
traveling. I mean, not at the beginning of our relationship, we weren't, but
You still
after
didn't have the money for that.
after we got married, well, it was always through his work. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't, the trips were always work related. And then maybe we would like pack on a day that, it was always like a weird mix of work. And then sometimes it was like we were paying for travel because we were already there. You can figure it out. It's like a puzzle. But at the beginning half of our relationship, no, I was still like working my job and we were just dating, and I was living in London, and then I moved back, and then I was living in New York. And then when we decided to get engaged, I left my job and started working for him because, how do you date someone and marry someone who travels the world 300 days a year? You're never going to see each other. So it was like, why don't you leave your job and work for me, with me? Initially, it was like for a while. And, then we'll settle down, get a house, I'll stop traveling so much, and, we'll live a more normal life. And then you can have whatever, pursue whatever career you want. That was the plan, but then that never happened. And so for the next 5 years, then we were just traveling all the time. So in some ways, I'm growing immensely because I'm traveling all the time. And this is what like feeds my soul more than anything. I'm seeing new places. I'm writing about it. I'm like, my worldview is expanding like crazy. And this is what I love more than anything. But then in other ways, I'm like, I'm getting to do all these things. But at the same time, I'm like kind of being kept in a little box while I'm doing them. And I can't really exactly do it the way that I want, or like experience it the way that I want. And so it's weird. Like so many of the places that I went when I've gone back since on my own in the past 5 years, they've been so different. And I loved it then. It's not like I had a bad time in any of those places, but to go back on my own completely and just like in my own right? Because nearly everywhere we went, it was because of his work, his job, someone else. So to go back because of my work, my job, or just my own, I want to go back here and it's, my money that's paying for the trip, was just like a different feeling, a different empowerment. And to just be able to be like, I want to do what I want and I'm on my schedule. And it's just a totally different
huge difference.
But I think that like balanced also the bending, because yes, I'm constantly feeling like I'm not doing what I want. I'm not getting what I want fully. I'm always compromising, but
the cup is filled with the traveling also.
Do all these amazing things. So, and this is where the how can I complain comes in, because I'm like, how can I possibly complain about this life? It's amazing.
Yeah.
But like when I go to bed every night,
you don't feel amazing. Yeah.
I feel pretty bad about like how my actual like emotional state interaction with the person I'm supposed to be in love with is going, but I had the most amazing day. So
I know.
And I like, it's so weird to look back on things. And that's why like writing my memoir was so.
I would also quickly like to mention, it's called My Own Magic for people that don't know the title.
I mean, I kept blogs and journals, and like when I was writing, I was going back to these and like and I took thousands of pictures because I started, blogging and doing like old school Instagram at this time, where like you had to be in like a flowy dress and it had to be perfect and like overly edited to do well. So like the photos I have are like crazy. So I have these like sensory reliving moments of all of these trips, and it's crazy to relive them because when I was writing about them, I'm reliving it with the perspective of now, and to like relive moments and kind of like relive some of the painful things. You're reliving some of the awe, and you're like, wow, I can't believe I got to do that. That was so beautiful. That moment was incredible. But then you're also like, wow, I can't believe I also spent the day like that, or allowed that to happen, or, allowed someone to treat me like that at that same moment or at that same time. And like, it can be so painful to like relive what you let someone do, or how you let yourself be treated. And, to be like, I wish I could go back and, do better by myself. But you, that's where you're like, okay, now we know we're not going to make that.
Now, I'd love to circle back on a few things you said. One thing you talked about bending for someone else or bending for something, and when it's okay and when it isn't. what I always love to say as a coach is the imagery that I like to use is taking a few steps closer to someone. And that's something that probably won't harm us, where we actually both are getting closer to each other. Bending, particularly backwards and all these things, are often the ones that harm us, even if it's just something super simple. When we do it in areas that are our essence and our core. And this can be something as simple. You love books. And if there was not a single book on the bookshelf, it might be to another person not a big deal because books are not that important to them. But if this feeds your soul, then this actually is harmful. So I'm always saying, like, compromises are important in any relationship, whether it's in a professional matter or a personal matter. But we need to know ourselves, our core, what makes us like being the person we are, what makes us feel alive, jump out of bed in the morning, like what are the dreams that we're having. And whilst, of course, all of this evolves over time, hopefully, it's important to always come back to the things that are our core and to not bend when it comes to that and actually stand up and preserve it.
Yeah, I've said a very similar thing that it was like one of the biggest lessons I learned post-divorce is like you get yourself back completely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a new relationship comes along. And of course, any relationship takes compromise. So it's going to threaten some parts of
Oh yeah, 100%.
But you have to learn, and you have from a divorce or a hard breakup, what parts of you are essential you. Like what parts are not on the table. Some things are on the table. Like
some are negotiable and some are not.
Binging reality TV.
Yeah.
It's not something I do, but
Yeah, as an example, I get that.
TV. But I can give up binging reality TV if that drives you nuts. But I can't give up my week-long solo trip that I take every August to reset, whatever. You have to know what it is that, like, if I give up this, I lose me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that when I was 19. And
I was about to say, you were really young too. It's like just straight out of high school. Like, everyone has all these question marks in their lives. Like, who am I? What do I want? Where do I want to go? And what I love what you just brought up, the transition from a relationship that ended, then being single and then starting a new relationship, however long that is in between. And that's why I asked you earlier, what was the root cause for your pattern that you had? Because I believe, and I'm not referring to you, but to other people, if people don't know what the reason was for, what belief in them triggered and drove the action, they will have the exact same thing with another person. And that's why I love what you write about your book, with the self-discovery and the self-doubt and owning yourself. And, I feel like everyone needs to do this. And I also think it is possible also to do it with a partner. Like, it really, it doesn't always need to be when you're single, but you gotta know your core, always come back to the essence, and always know nothing is too small to say no to that I'm not changing that. Like, even if it's just, I want my cup of tea at 7 a.m. in the morning. Like, it really doesn't matter. If that is something that's so dear to you, do not give it up. Because the thing is, if it's like something like this, the year has 365 days. So on 365 days, you're compromising on a cup that fills your cup. And then it adds up over time. And as you say, you lose those parts along the way.
Yeah.
And also you get very resentful towards the other person as well.
No, extremely. And it just it can seem silly. I mean, to me, I'm sure I wake up and play music and blast music and dance in the morning. Okay. And this is,
which I love.
And this is something that I grew up with in my household. when I actually stopped and realized it. Like, I would so often wake up to the sound of my mother in the kitchen blasting music. Okay. There was always music playing in my house, always noise, always like I would wake up to the sound of fun. And and then when I got married, I woke up so much earlier than my ex-husband because I was going to work and he worked late. And so like, again, I had to adapt to his life. We lived in this tiny studio. I had to wake up and be like this silent little person, like just skimpering around in the dark, trying to get like dressed silently in the bathroom with the door shut. Like, going to work, I couldn't make any noise. Like, that seems like such a silly thing. Like, it's such a easy compromise. Like, of course, I'm not gonna wake up and blast the radio when you're trying to sleep. Like, of course, that's a compromise I have to make that relationship work. I'm not gonna be like, no, too bad. I'm blasting you're not. But like, to get that simple thing back, like, oh my gosh, the difference that makes in my life to be able to wake up that way instead of have to wake up and like silently tiptoe around and it's dark and I'm sad. Like, it's just such a difference. And so like, imagine all the little things like that that
they add up.
And some of them might not seem that serious, just like that, but they do add up. And you don't realize when you're younger what is like really essential and what isn't. And so especially when you don't really have a very strong sense of self, or when a relationship is so important to you that when you're like, without a relationship, you know, as many people do, it's like, if they're not in a relationship, they feel worthless.
Yeah.
So keeping a relationship is ultimate goal. So they will give up anything to keep
including themselves
in their life. So anything person X demands is like, well, fine. I'll mold myself into whoever you need me to be so that you stay. And then you are just, you know, you become this like endless piece of
silhouette.
Yeah. And then what happens to you? Like, you're just ultimately giving away this and giving away that and giving away this and giving away that. And you're always shaping yourself differently for a different person. Like, you have to remain who you are. And of course, you're going to have to give a little bit here and there for a different person, but you got to kind of remain your core of who you need to be to always be. Yeah. And I feel like if someone needs something that is like, makes up you to change in order to love you, then that person isn't for you.
For sure. 100%. I always, you know, like, often people like say, oh, what if, you know, like, what if I never find the right person for me? And like, if I leave this person. And I always say, first of all, I believe we all, when we were born, for sure, whatever you believe in, created someone for us as well. And sometimes not even one person, but multiple people, because we also evolve throughout time. So, you know, in different versions, meet different people that connect with us throughout our life. But it's so important to not always think. And I remember when I was in my early 20s, I would always think, oh, what does that person want? What if I say this? What if I say that? And the one question that I rarely ever ask myself was, what do I want? It was always like, oh, if I write this, how does this person react? If I do this, what does this person get upset? And one of the most powerful questions really is to come back, you know, like noise cancel for a second, what if the others, but like, what does my heart actually want?
It's very interesting. Actually, if you're in a conversation, how often are you internally just wondering about if what you're saying is going to please or interest or
100%, yeah,
whatever the other person, versus are you actually saying just what you want to express, what you want to say, what's interesting to you? That's very interesting. I'm gonna be like in my own head the next time I'm talking to
And
someone.
of course, like it needs to come from a place of kindness and respect. It's like, we don't need to mention it. But I do think the question is like, what do I want? And I think your title, My Own Magic, is really highlighting this so well. Like, what is my magic? Like, what do I want to bring to the table? What makes me feel alive? What is my voice? What do I want to share with the world? So I'd love to talk a little bit more, because you chose the title My Own Magic. What does magic mean and feel like to you?
Well, the title was actually someone in my community.
Wow, cool.
That's your book title. I was during 2020, I was writing an essay like once a week,
Mm-hmm.
and then reading it live when Instagram Live was like a huge thing, which I miss. I loved Instagram.
Yeah, I think so too. That was awesome.
Can we bring it back? I loved it. I was reading essays live, and I was just like reflecting on things. It was kind of like memoir writing prep, honestly. And I was talking about how I was on a retreat with a bunch of women, and we were in Joshua Tree, which is a place that's just like immensely special to me. And it was
And so beautiful.
a couple months before my divorce actually happened. And it was a retreat where I actually, it was one of the first opportunities that I was offered to go like work on this retreat. I was hired to be the like social media capturer, capture the things, post things, share things, and I had never, been hired for things before. I started doing this, and then like, I didn't think I could ever really make any kind of career out of it. So as like tiny opportunities to actually work started coming up, I was like, whoa, I could actually maybe do things with this. This could pay me money. This could maybe be a job. I could grow this. So I could offer this retreat. I have to cross the world to do it. I'm in New York at the time. I have to go out to LA. I think like 2 days after I got home, we were going to Thailand. Like, it made no sense. And the total pay was like $200. Like, nothing made sense, but I really wanted to do it, because to me, it was like, this is a step in the career that I want. And I think there was, some eye rolling on, the part of my counterpart, but I was like, I need to do this. And I went out there, and we happened to be in Joshua Tree, which I loved and had been to before. And we were in this amazing meditation place called the Integratron that I'd always wanted to go to. And there was this point in the center of the Integratron where it's like this powerful source of geomagnetic forces, all aligned. And I very much like don't honestly believe in any of this stuff, but like, find me on the right day in the right place, and like, I'll drink the Kool-Aid. So I'm like standing and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and we're all like standing around the circle, and they're like, step into this circle. And I had met 2 women on this retreat who run like a branding agency, and they were working with, like, they were hired to also be there and work with me. And they were the ones who were like, how much do you charge, and what are your rates? And and I was like, what are you guys talking about? I don't have rates. I don't do this. And they were like, are you kidding? Like, I remember specifically the one girl said to me, do you not see what you are?
Wow.
And it's like, I still
Wow.
can't without crying, because I wish I could say that to thousands of women. She said, do you not see what you are? And I was like, no, what do you mean? And she was like, you are so valuable. And she said, to brands, she said, you are so valuable to brands, but you could just stop at the valuable to when you're talking to so many women, every woman, that you are so valuable to brands. She said, you're the creative director, you're the photographer, you're the costume designer, you're the model. She said, you do it all. And she was like, you are so valuable and you're good at this. She said, you should be charging for this. You should be charging so much for this. You can build a career of this. She was like, we can help you. And I was like, so charged up, because no one had said this to me. Everybody that I had shared that I was doing this with was kind of, this was like 2016, 2017. It was kind of, it was starting, but it wasn't what it is now. And my ex-husband didn't necessarily believe that it could really become something. Even like my most supportive friends and family didn't know. No one knew what it could be. So no one had ever said to me what they did. So I was so charged when we're standing in the Integratron of like, I can build my own career. And I needed it because I felt so useless in this marriage. And I knew I couldn't just be this invisible assistant forever. So I'm standing there in the middle of this dome of this geomagnetic force field circle. And this like, apparently descendant of aliens is telling us to stand in the circle and say one word that you want more than anything. And she said, but instead of saying that you want it, say that you are that thing. Like you already have it, you are it. And someone got in the middle and was like money, and someone got in the middle and was like success or something. And I got in the middle and like, just for whatever reason, the first thing that came out of my mouth was just magic.
I love that.
And someone piped in and went, you're already magic. You're married to magic. And I went right away. I said, no, I am my own magic. And I think it was just because I was like, I need separation from this thing. I need to stand on my own. I need my own career. I need my own money. I need my own, I need to be able to make my own decisions. I need my own dreams. I need my own path. I could stay in this relationship. I can find a way to make it work, but I need to be my own person, and I need to have my own magic. I can't always just be under someone else's shadow.
Yeah.
And I wrote this essay and shared that, and then someone, DM me and they were like, "That's your book title, My Own Magic."
I love this so much. What an awesome story.
I wrote my lit agent later that day, and I was like, I think someone just came up with my book title.
This is I love this story so much, and it's just magical. It is just magical. And also it shows,
I just love that it's been I love in life when things do just come out of you naturally like that. It's weird that I just said that word. Of all the things I could have said, it's almost odd that I said that, because at this point I almost had this like weird kind of, I was developing this like weird hatred for Patrick in a way. I mean, not really, but like it was becoming this like, it was almost becoming like oppressive in a way, because it was like this community I was a part of that was like prohibiting me from having my own life. And I think that was the thing. I needed to find a way to create my own life. And I knew I have like this, my own kind of magic inside of me that I can use to go build my own dream life. And that's what I believe it really is. Like our own magic inside of us is all of these things that make us valuable, right? And all of these things we have inside of us that we don't recognize.
Yeah.
We're walking around with all these talents and we just think they're normal. And it takes someone else to look at us and go, do you not see what you are?
Yeah. The power of feelings.
We don't know.
Yeah.
And a friend can say that, but it's hard because you're like, well, a friend's supposed to.
Yeah.
And our mom can say it, but it's worse because you're like, you're my mom, and you hear it from your husband or your boyfriend. But when someone you've just met, when a stranger you've just met, looks at you after spending one day with you and says, do you not see what you are? You like that hits you. And that you're like, maybe she is onto something. Like maybe she's right. And it's so weird that you take the advice of a total stranger more to heart.
Yeah.
But you do.
And it's such a important reminder that how important it is to make others feel seen and that they matter and that they are heard.
And that is honestly, again, like I said, there's 1,000 reasons I wrote this book, but like that is so why, because it is such an important thing. And like that is also why I create what I create, like, and why I'm always creating things that I am trying to make sure uplifting and
Mm-hmm.
positive. It's why I love doing events. And, at my events, the women that come, like, it is the most beautiful and like uplifting fun. Like, they're like, didn't your book come out like 2 years ago now? And I'm like, yep. And like 2 months ago in Charleston, there were 150 of the coolest women you've ever met, and we were still there partying. Like, at this point, like, there's no rule that you're not allowed
Yeah,
to.
100%.
It's not like there's an expiration date on the top
Mm-hmm.
of your book, like a yogurt, of like, you got to throw this out now.
Like a yogurt.
I'm sorry, what? Like, it's
Yeah.
still on the shelf at Barnes and Noble. You can still buy it.
Mm-hmm.
We can still have,
Yeah.
parties. It's such a weird concept of like, you're not allowed to keep
Mm-hmm.
promoting something like that. I'm sorry, I worked 4 years on this.
Oh yeah, totally.
But it's such a wonderful like reason to be like, oh, I'm in this city. Okay, great. Let's do an event. I
Mm-hmm.
can sign books. This is basically just an excuse to have a big fun party,
Mm-hmm.
and we can all meet each other. And it's just been so great. And like, Valentine's Day is around the corner. I had a big Valentine's Day party last year here in Paris. And, expat cities can be really difficult for people to make friends. And,
Mm-hmm.
it can be a rough thing. You're essentially trying to build a new family out of, other expats, because your family is across
Mm-hmm.
our continent. And someone messaged me the other day because I was sharing photos from last year, and she said, I met someone last year at your party who I didn't know. We've spent the last year hanging out and becoming best friends. And I just
How
want to thank you
beautiful.
for throwing that party, because I have a new best friend because of that event and because of that party. And, we found each other because of that, and because of this community. And, I just want to let you know, like, that was a huge success. And you're like, if like one little success story like that,
Mm-hmm.
if you can make two people feel seen and
Mm-hmm.
special and come to this party and connect, like, it's just like, that is, if that isn't the ultimate success of like why
Yeah.
I am here trying to connect and trying to create and trying to share, and why I'm spending hours a day on my phone doing all of this. If it's not about making people feel happy and inspired and seen and valued and connected, what am I doing?
For sure. And in the end, that's what magic is. Like, we are in our magic and it's spreading wherever we go. And I always imagine it like little seeds that we plant along the way. And we usually don't get to experience or see or enjoy the beauty of the plants or the trees that come up from the seeds that we plant. But I feel like when we are in our magic, when we live life on our own terms, when we speak up, when we are passionate about the things that we do, we ultimately also give others the inspiration and the courage and also the permission to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm such a big proponent of like, share your story, because you really don't know who
resonates with it,
inspires, who relates, even if you only relate to one little bit of somebody's story. I feel like we all see ourselves in each other in some way, shape, or form. So even if someone seems to live a completely different life from you, if you really start to learn, because it's so easy to look just on a surface level and think, oh, just assume what someone's life is. But if you really look or learn or read, you'll really realize like, oh, okay, actually we're quite similar in that way or that way. And so often you relate here, or you relate there, or you realize, oh, that's how they got through that, or some little bit of something helps you think, oh, that's how I might be able to approach that, or oh, that's how she found the strength to do that, or I could try that, or how else do we figure it out if not through each other? And if we hide how we got through the hardest things, or that we even dealt with the hardest things.
I was about to say, or even
that's the worst. If you hide that you have been through, if I just pretend like it's all been fine and dandy since I moved here, if I didn't show you the times that I am like sobbing for the 4 hours after my parents just left because it's so hard when you live here and your family's on another continent. And yes, I'm 35 years old, but I still wish I could hug my mom every second.
Yeah.
If I wasn't showing that and showing the complications, and you have to show the complicated and difficult things, or else
it's not
everybody
real as well.
going through those things feels alone. And there's nothing worse than feeling alone in your pain or your struggle, because then that's when you really feel, you already feel isolated when you're going through something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's so rare that, like, someone in your circle has been through the specific thing you've been through, that you can go to someone you really trust and be like, let me unload. And they're like, I've been through this, I can help you. So if you don't have anyone to talk to that you're close to, and then you don't even know anyone who's talking about what you're talking about, it's so small and isolating.
Yeah. But that's like really the beauty of social media is, as you just mentioned, if someone doesn't have someone that for whatever reason, like can't relate to whatever they're going through, like some people are unfortunately in that place. There are always people on social media or podcasts, YouTube, that are sharing the same pain. And whether it's like they're still going through the same pain, but then I'm not alone, or same as you, oh, Anna was in a really bad place and she really made it through in such a great way. She's now owning her magic. She's, happy. She's living her dream life. And that's really a silver lining. And it can give so much hope and also fuel just to keep going.
I also like that it shows that there isn't one way, and there isn't a right way.
Yeah.
Because especially with grief, there seem to be like grief police out there who like tell you how you should deal with grief, and what you should do and shouldn't do, and what you can do and can't do. And I think social media can be very helpful for that, for just showing all the various ways in which it is okay to, how every day is different, and every person is different, and every grief journey is different, and there is no right or wrong way to get through anything. And that it is no one's business to judge how anyone is getting through anything.
And even if they judge, let them. It's
funny. I remember talking to another author, actually, who had written a fiction book, but based on her real life experience with losing her husband. And she was saying how she had experienced a lot of judgment about how she was grieving. And she realized that, everyone who was judging her grief had never lost anybody.
Yeah.
We were both saying that, you would have you ever experienced it yourself?
Yeah,
you
completely.
Never. The empathy you have having gone through something,
it's very different. It's interesting where you also said earlier, there is no right, no wrong way. I remember when my grandmother passed away, she had cancer, and looking back, and I also wrote a book about it, one of the things that made it much harder than it already was were certain expectations I had, what grief looks like, feels like, how the journey is. Like it starts with, and I've never experienced grief in such intensity and depth before. And I thought like, grief is something that ends at a certain point, which is already the first, unfortunately, it is not true, because as long as we love, we grieve, but grief changes. It comes in different waves, it comes in different shapes and forms. And another thing that also really changed my perspective was like before my grandmother passed away, I always thought, it was already quite a few years now back, I always thought, like when I say I had a happy day, I wake up in a good mood, I'm in a good mood at lunch, in the afternoon, I wake up, like I go to bed happy. And then after she passed away, there was a day, quite a few months already in, I went to bed, and that day I was sad, I was angry, I was frustrated, I felt disappointed. I cried a lot. I didn't really laugh a lot, but I had a sense of happiness within me when I was in bed. And I was, of course, like wondering, why is that? And reflected on it. But it also made me realize and actually redefine what happiness means to me. And to me now, happiness means allowing myself to feel all the range of emotions I have, because then I can feel whole and also I can feel at home. And the imagery that I had while sitting with all my emotions is a rainbow. So first of all, of course, the rain and the sun and so on, but a rainbow has different colors. And what makes the rainbow and also beautiful is that the rainbow doesn't only hold space for its favorite color. It's not just pink or yellow, but actually all colors.
Yeah, the darkness is in there too.
Yeah.
The purple.
Mm-hmm.
The red, which is like, I mean, red is love, but red is also anger.
Yeah.
You can interpret things in different ways, and it can mean both things.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've never thought of that at all before, but I love that. I think that's very, very true.
And grief, like, it allowed me to connect so much. So sharing my grief allowed me to connect so much. First of all, with myself on a really deep level. And I must say, we meet others only at the depth we have the courage to meet ourselves. So, by really sharing my grief and talking openly about it, like, the connections I was blessed with afterwards is just incredible, because what people share, and also grief doesn't just only come with death, with people dying, I always say, like, grief is, a 5-year-old child that's the only one that doesn't get invited to the birthday party, or when you dream about, like, for years about your college that you want to go to and you don't get accepted, or a divorce. In
a way. I mean, divorce for sure. There was definitely a moment where I was like grieving a life that I thought
you would
was
have
going to happen for a second. We were about to, I was just turning 30. We were, before obviously bad, we were planning to have a family.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, am I even going to be able to have kids? Because I'm turning 30 now, and the thought of anyone impregnating me anytime soon is off the table. So like, you're like, for a second, I'm like, I might not ever even get to be a mom now. It's so normal to grieve in so many ways, not just from physical, actual loss of people, but hypothetical loss, so many things.
I'm so grateful you brought up grief. Thank you.
No, it's such it's something that a lot of people I think don't want to talk about because it can be uncomfortable, or I've always felt like it's one of the worst things you ever go through, but the way it changes you is a really beautiful thing. Of like, my sister and I both have said many times, like, what different people we are now versus the people we were before any of the awful things we went through. And we're like, I as much as I wish I hadn't gone through any of these things, I like this version of who I am a lot better. And I wouldn't want that old version back. And so it's bizarre. Like, you don't wish really difficult, horrible life events on people, but when they come, you almost like you almost wish you could say like, my sister did say to me, my sister said when I was going through my divorce, like the first night, I think even, or maybe at some point, when I was really feeling awful and crying, and I just said, I just want to feel like me again, because I didn't even, it was like this like lifeless blob that just was like sobbing and couldn't even do anything. I said, I just want to feel like me again. And she said, you're never going to feel like you again. She said, but you are going to feel like this stronger 2.0 version of you. She said, you're never going to be that you again. It's not possible. You've been through something. You're never going to forget what just happened. You're never going to forget what happened. You can't. You're never going to be able to unlive those emotions, unlive that pain. It's not possible. But you learn from it, and you're going to be this 2.0 Anna, and she's better. And it's so true. So like, you don't want that tough stuff, but who you get to be afterward is like this superhero version of you.
Yeah.
And so I'm well aware that like I'm turning 36 in 10 days.
How exciting.
It is. And I by no means think that I'm done, right? Like I am sure that there is much ahead that is not going to be easy. But I'm glad that I have that mentality already, that like I know it's going to come. It's going to suck.
But you can tackle everything.
There's going to be some hard stuff ahead. I know it. And I'm probably not even prepared. But I know already that I've been through hard things before. I'm here standing. I will figure it out. I will come out of it in a 3.0 and a 4.0, 5.0. Hang on, we'll figure it out. I will keep learning and keep standing and figure it out, bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's all you can do, right? Because it's coming. No one gets through life unscathed. So all you can hope to do, because you can't just curl in a ball every time it comes at you and sob. You have to stand strong and take it, feel all the emotions. I'm with you on that. I say all the time, feel it. I cry whenever I want to cry.
Yeah,
when I need to scream, I scream. I go for it. And then I'm the opposite too. I am up here when I'm happy. I feel the rainbow of emotions.
Yeah.
But do all of that, but don't let the downs get you down for good. Gotta take it, learn from it, keep going.
I love that. And Anna, there's a question I'm asking each guest I'm interviewing this year, and it's, if your heart had wings to embrace your fears and rise above, what would you do right now?
Like what thing would I do if I was totally fearless? I maybe this will sound crazy. There's really nothing that fear is holding me back from doing at this exact moment.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the only thing I could tell you is like, this is going to sound ridiculous, is like swim with sharks. I don't want to do that. Like, I really don't. But like my only very real fear is sharks. Like, that's the only thing that comes into my
I love this. This is so good.
But yeah, that is that's a beautiful thing, actually. Like there's no actual like thing I really want right now that fear is preventing me from going for. The things I am currently like have on pause that I'm not going for, I am not going for at the moment, because I'm like, I don't want that just yet.
It's not the right time.
I want it, but I'm not. I'm just taking a pause. I'm enjoying everything that I have built.
Yeah.
Because it's important, right? Like we spend, you need to soak in everything you wanted. So I'm like, let's just soak it in. And then I'm going to take on the next chapter of all these new challenges. I know I can do it.
Yeah.
But I just want to stay in the calm.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more. And then I'm going to take on the new chapter ahead that is a little bit scary, but I know I can do it. But I'm just letting myself profiter, as the French would say, profit on the
Yeah.
for a little bit more.
That's so good. And also, like, I always love the imagery of, like, you know, when we go on a hike, we hike for hours and hours and hours and hours. And then we stay on top of the mountain for like 5 minutes
Yeah.
and run back down.
Yeah, it's so true.
And there was one hike I was thinking to myself, this is sometimes how people, or even myself in certain life situations, live life. We like work hard. And then once we're on top of the mountain, we take a picture or maybe two and have a quick snack. And then we run down already thinking, what's the next mountain to climb?
I know. And like, should we not like pitch a tent? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, have a picnic?
Yeah.
Like, stay a night?
Yeah. Or maybe even 2 or 3. Yeah.
I think France has been very good for
I was about to say, France is amazing for that because the mentality is,
my mentality, my mindset, my soul to just not constantly be chasing the next, and to just instead, you know, enjoy and
more
and not be so constantly worried about, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next?
Always on the go.
And not always be worried about, I think there's something in us that always feels like we need another project. Like, okay, well, I did that, so that's finished. So then what's the next thing I need to do? And what's next on the list? And especially like, there's like the social clock expectation of like, okay, well, by this age, you should have had this, and you should have this, and you should already own a home, and you should already have 2 kids, and you should, your brain is partially listening to this, and then you also have like your own internal list of what you're supposed to do, your own 5-year plan, 10-year plan. It's really hard to tune all that out.
Yeah, so stressful.
Yeah. And in a way, like my divorce kind of just like took that list and just
you had a great clean reset.
I can't really say I ever had that list anyway, because my life was so abnormal anyway. We never really had that list, my ex-husband and I. So I never really had that. But I never made one when I started over with my own life, because I was like, well, according to those lists, I'm already behind. But like, even when it comes to a home, like I have a advisor on like life, finances accountant.
On life. Funny how you said it, but I know what you mean.
You're 35. You should own a home. You shouldn't be renting. And I was like, but why? I don't want a home.
Yeah.
And, and it's such a crazy concept to convince someone that you don't want to buy a home at you're 35 and this is not your goal. But you just realize, like, for me though, I don't want that. My goal is not to live in a home. I know this might sound nuts, but I enjoy my just managing these 3 rooms for the moment. And I'm not yet sure what city I want to spend the rest of my life in. It might be Paris. We might want to move down to the south of France. I might want to move to London in 2 years. I don't know.
You don't know.
I need freedom. For me, some people want a home. For me, I want freedom. I want freedom more than anything right now. So like, you just have to, again, it comes back to like knowing yourself, right?
And noise canceling.
And cancel out that noise. And so it's been, it's been good to like, I've kind of always done that since I started my life over. It's been like, cancel out the noise. I don't care what the normal thing is. We're clearly not doing that anyway. The normal thing is not get divorced at 30 and move to France. So we're already not doing the norm.
Yeah.
So let's just not worry about that. And it was very nice to just kind of take a pause, kind of over the last year, which I'm still kind of riding. And maybe in about a couple, I'm starting some new things, but I do very much enjoy that it isn't fear that's preventing me from going. Yeah. It's really like the immense peace of like, just, I'm enjoying.
I love that.
Piece of like not having the anxiety of like what others expect of me or what the world expects of me. I don't know exactly how to phrase that because I think the concept doesn't exist in
Yeah, I think when we start living life on our own terms, which looks very different to everyone and also feels very different to everyone,
yeah.
that's when we are actually alive and not merely exist.
Yeah.
And then things are so different. And there's also a very different sense of calm and peace. And I call it coming home.
Yeah, that's coming home to
To
yourself, right?
yourself. Exactly.
Coming home to who you are.
Mm-hmm. You are the perfect person for the question from our audience. Grace is asking, how do I know if I am in the right relationship?
Oh goodness. I think it's hard to say. To just say like you just know.
Mm-hmm.
I do think you do just know in your gut. I
Mm-hmm.
think if you feel, I mean, if you feel 100% comfortable being 100% you is what I would say. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I I never felt in my old relationship 100% comfortable being 100%
Mm-hmm.
me. I always felt like it wasn't enough. I had to be smarter, or I had to be, you know, better at something,
Mm-hmm.
or it was something. I had to fix things always, or uh, it just it didn't feel like I could just 100% be me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I from like the day I the minute I met my current boyfriend, I think it was partially just because I didn't even meet him on a date. I met him on a whim, and I was like, boyfriend was the last thing I was looking for, so
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even care. But I was just like
100% you.
100% who I am, and I was really just like, if you don't like 100% who I am,
I'm 100% out.
yeah. But I think that's it. Like
Mm-hmm.
just 100% comfort, and like not having to sacrifice those big chunks of
Mm-hmm.
who you are, like we said before. And really having like your actual like your needs met,
Mm-hmm.
um, those like those deep core needs. So many of the things that were like very actually important to me in a relationship were not met in my marriage. Like, and I don't know how I ever thought that I would be able to spend my life like that. I don't know how I thought I would get through life, with these gaps.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I thought I would be able to fill the gap, or my
Yeah.
sister would, or I don't know. But there can't be those big gaps like that. Like, you need to know that those like big emotional needs are being filled,
Mm.
because who else is going to do it?
And I would also, one thing that I would add to what you just said is also, I think a really great parameter, whether it's a relationship or a friendship, is the question, how does this relationship make me feel? And not on a Monday and not on a Friday only, but overall, on average, how does it make me feel? Does it make me feel small? Does it make me feel tight, anxious? And if a person struggles with emotions, go for physical sensations.
Yeah.
Go for physical sensation and then work yourself forward. And if a relationship or a friendship makes you feel 6 out of 10 only, and it's not temporarily, I'm not talking about temporarily, but overall, it's not good enough. Even a 7 out of 10 is not good enough for life, because we want to feel great, and life is way too short to go for mediocre. Yeah.
No, I wrote that exact thing in my book. I said, when I reflect from the moment I met my ex-husband, I felt small.
Mm-hmm.
Our
Yeah.
first interaction, the first thing he said to me, I felt small.
And that's,
And I always
says it all.
I always felt small. And you have to separate how you feel about someone from the way they make you feel.
Yeah, very good point. I love that.
And you can love someone with all of your heart, and
they can still make you feel.
But if you leave that interaction feeling insecure or feeling small, or feeling stupid or feeling not good enough or whatever, same with friends, you might love a friend to death, but if you're hanging out with them and you feel not good enough, or you feel
drained,
you feel drained, you have to end that relationship. It's not a relationship for you. It applies to everything. Think about, yes, I might love you, I might respect you, but how do you make me feel? Because that's so important.
And a really great reminder is also how taking a leap of faith that can bring like one of the greatest gifts. You have one of the most adorable dogs now. Can you share a little bit about your dog? Also, what has Mia taught you about redefining yourself and embracing new chapters in life?
He's right here chewing his stick. I do. I wanted this dog literally since I moved to New York. I was interning at SNL, and I remember Blake Lively was the studio guest, and she came in with her little tiny toy poodle. And I was like, that is the cutest dog I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, I would want a tiny toy poodle. And then I was like, I need this dog. And finally, years later, here he is.
So cute.
I mean, the dog is just like the best thing you could ever do for yourself. It teaches you so much patience and love. It teaches you to take care of something, and it, like, you just never imagine how much you could possibly love a creature until it's living in your house and you would literally jump in front of a bus for it. And I mean, I always thought what's interesting is I always thought it would be such an obstacle in my life that's what prevented me from doing something. And I wanted a dog forever, like I said. And I knew it would bring me joy and happiness and all these things. But I was always like, but it'll be too hard. It'll get in the way. It'll be too complicated. So I prevented myself from doing this thing for so long. And, maybe that was the right decision. I certainly went through a lot of things, and maybe a dog wouldn't have fit in all of that at those points. But in the last couple of years, even, I was like, there were many times I almost got a dog and then I panicked and I didn't. And like, finally, just last year, I was like, I'm doing this. I've wanted to do this forever. I'm getting the dog. And then you get the dog and you're like, I should have done this so long ago. So I think it's just been a very good lesson of like, sometimes you just have to trust that you know what's right for you. Like, if you really want something, it's the right thing for you, and you just got to trust it and you just got to do it. And even if it seems like it's going to be scary and complicated, you don't know how you're going to figure it out, that you got to just have to trust that it's going to fall into place and you're going to figure it out. And yes, it might make some things slightly more complicated or confusing, but, the ultimate joy and reward and happiness and lesson that comes out of it is so well worth it.
And every great opportunity in life and every great gift comes with solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
My final question, what is one of the many reasons you're grateful for your dog?
1,000. As he growls at me.
So funny.
Stick away. Here he is chewing one of his 1,000 cheese sticks. And he's like, don't come near my stick. One of the best things, but one of the most reasons I'm grateful for him is because, I work at home alone. And it can be very lonely. It's funny. You think that like working from home alone is the dream, and it is sometimes, but like other times you're like home all day by yourself, talking to nobody, just you. And I didn't realize how much having a little buddy with me all day And he sits on my lap all day, like cozied up in a blanket, just sleeping. Every once in a while, chews a stick or wants to play with a toy for a bit. But like, it's such a, you feel like you have a little buddy. It's such a little like companion. And he really like gives me like a sense of calm. Um, and, uh, and like I don't suffer from that much anxiety anymore. I did for a while, like very normal post divorce to like, suddenly have very bad anxiety. But like massively has calmed me down
Mm-hmm.
and really does like give me this sense of like, I'm not just alone all day. I have like my little pal with me, and he goes everywhere with me. In France, he's allowed everywhere. It's the most friendly country everywhere. So like he's not only with me at home, like we go coffee together, we get groceries together. Anywhere I go aside from a museum, he's with me, tucked in my coat, tucked in my bag. He's my little buddy all the time. And in a place where I am far away from family and most of my best friends, are not in this country at all. Like it's really nice to have, dogs are family. So
Dogs are just the
I have
best.
this little family member with me all the time.
Anna, thank you so much for coming on our show. And it just really proves how right my feeling was about you. I want to point that out. I take credit for it. No, but like seriously, I'm so grateful for opening your heart with us and sharing so much of your inspiration and your courage and your transformation, because I am so sure that our listeners will feel so inspired. And I will put all your channels and your book and also your Paris guide for anyone who comes to the City of Love in the show notes to make sure that people can follow you and also read your book and follow your guide. And yeah, I hope you will come back on our show very soon.
Thank you so much.
It's a wrap for today, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. And if you loved this conversation as much as I did, please share it with your family and friends. And I see you next Wednesday.